In my previous video, I introduced the Sonderkraftfahrzeug 10/4, an early self-propelled anti-aircraft gun which carried a 2 cm Flak 30 mount on a special platform. This vehicle was developed in the late 1930s to provide air defense for the advancing mobile formations. But Germany had another, more powerful self-propelled anti-aircraft gun as well. The Sonderkraftfahrzeug, so Special Purpose Vehicle 7/1, armed with a 2 cm Flak-Vierling quadruple anti-aircraft gun mounting. Approximately 800 were produced until the end of December of 1944. The Sonderkraftfahrzeug 7 half-tracked prime movers were used throughout the entire war. They were seen during the 1940 Victory Parade, contributing to the myth of the mechanized blitzkrieg. In fact, while produced in large numbers, there were never enough to fully equip the German forces. The 2 cm Flak-Vierling 38 had a considerable firepower. The gun was fired by 2 pedals, each of which fired 2 diametrically opposite barrels in semi-automatic or automatic mode. The effective vertical range was 2,200 meters. It was also used just as effectively against ground targets as it was against low-flying aircraft. Each of the 4 guns had a separate magazine that held only 20 rounds. This meant that a maximum combined rate of fire of 1,400 rounds per minute was reduced practically to only 800 rounds per minute for combat use, which would still require that an emptied magazine be replaced every 6 seconds on each of the 4 guns. As all early German self-propelled anti-aircraft guns, the 7/1 had the same problem. They were too vulnerable against enemy fire, as well as their wind and weather protection was absolutely insufficient. The height of the vehicle was a large disadvantage on the battlefield as well. To improve the protection of the Sonderkraftfahrzeug 7/1 got an armored driver's cabin and an armor shield in front of the radiator from the middle of 1943. The vehicle also towed the Sonderanhänger 54 special trailer. This was a relatively large trailer, especially designed for carrying the accessories and extra ammunition of the self-propelled guns. Like its little brother, the 7/1 was also used in the Leichte Fliegerabwehrkompanie Selbstfahrerflotte, or the light self-propelled anti-aircraft gun companies of the German armed forces. These companies were mainly used to accompany the panzer divisions or to protect important installations like bridges. 2 7/1 self-propelled guns formed the 3rd heavy platoon of these companies. It is a relatively little known fact that since the Waffen-SS Panzergrenadier and Panzer divisions used to be in the midst of fighting, they had much more powerful anti-aircraft assets than the regular German army units did. In contrast with the regular panzer divisions, which usually had only 1 Self-Propelled Anti-Aircraft Gun Company, in the Waffen-SS, the self-propelled companies were moved down to the regimental level. These regiments had an organic anti-aircraft company with a dozen self-propelled guns each. So altogether, on paper, a Waffen-SS Panzer division was authorized to have 28 self-propelled anti-aircraft guns in 1943. In the first years of the war, these vehicles were very well suited to accompany the tank formations, as they could keep up with them relatively easily. And they could provide covering fire for the German troops in case of an Allied or Soviet air raid easily. Their very high rate of fire made the Flak-Vierling a serious threat to Soviet ground attack aircraft. Simply the presence of a self-propelled anti-aircraft gun platoon around a tank battalion could make the relatively inexperienced Soviet pilots to hesitate to attack the advancing German forces. But it is also true that the lack of armor protection meant that the 7/1s had to avoid enemy ground forces at all cost, because these vehicles were very vulnerable to artillery strikes and small arms fire. Although the later types got an 8mm armor protection, this could not protect them against large caliber weapons. Sometimes these vehicles were also used in another, secondary role to provide fire support for the ground forces. When used in this role, the vehicles were driven in reverse, with the gun having a large and open field of fire towards the enemy units. This tactic also offered the advantage of a fast escape if this was needed. In the second part of the war, the Flak 38 became much less efficient against modern Allied and Soviet ground attack aircraft, so this gun was replaced by the more powerful 7.3 cm Flak 36 gun. This version was called Sonderkraftfahrzeug 7/2. The cannon was fully automatic and effective against aircraft flying at altitudes up to 4,200 meters. The cannon was produced in both towed and self-propelled versions, and having a very flexible doctrine, the German forces used their anti-aircraft pieces in ground support roles as well, and the 3.7 cm guns were no exception to that. Altogether, approximately 1,000 7/2s were made between 1942 and 1945. The Flak-Panzer IV, a series of self-propelled anti-aircraft guns based on the Panzer IV chassis, began to arrive in January of 1944, but they never entirely replaced the earlier versions. Despite significant losses, both the 7/1 and the 7/2s were used until the last days of the war. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you, and see you in the next video.